Please stop making stupid excuses for not trying to build an egalitarian revolutionary movement to remove the rich from power, to have real, not fake democracy with no rich and no poor. And yes, I've heard the excuses, and they are stupid. The reason they're stupid is because the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of people would love such a revolution. And the first step for anybody who has any desire to help see such a revolution take place is to verify for yourself that the vast majority of people would love such a revolution. It's not hard to do. You can get the button that I'll make available to you that says, let's remove the rich from power to have real, not fake democracy with no rich and no poor. Or you can just write those words on a 3x5 card. And you can show them to random people in your neighborhood, assuming you don't live in Beverly Hills. And you can ask them, show them the 3x5 card or the button or whatever, and say, do you think this message here is a good idea or a bad idea? And just wait and listen to them. And 90% of them, based on my experience in 5 neighborhoods of Boston, which is liberal, and in rural New Hampshire, where they listen to NPR, where they listen to Rush Limbaugh and not NPR, conservative place, and other people have told me they've done it in places like Chicago and Pittsburgh and so forth. And I've done it even at a pro-Trump rally. You get about 90% of the people saying it's a good idea or a great idea. So don't give me your goddamn excuse about how, we can't build a movement because people would be all against it. People have been all brainwashed by the mass media. The people are all sheeple. They're all this, they're all that. That's just a goddamned excuse. And I'm sick and tired of people making that kind of excuse. People who have never even gone out in public places to ask random people how they feel about removing the rich from power to have real, not fake democracy and no rich and no poor. They haven't even done that. And yet they pronounce, the American people think this, the American people think that. And how do they come to those wrong conclusions? Well, they've been looking at television and they can see what the 11 o'clock news is saying. And so they figure, well, everyone must believe the 11 o'clock news. They don't understand that the purpose of the 11 o'clock news, of the mass media propaganda, is not mainly to persuade people to believe those lies. It's to persuade people like you that everybody else is believing those lies, so that you'll continue to say stupid things like, can't build a revolutionary movement here because no one would be for it, they're all against it. I've heard all the dumb excuses. My favorite one goes like this: everyone just hopes that they'll be rich one day too, so they want to keep the rich in power so that when they're a big multimillionaire, they'll have, all that power and when their day comes, and they figure it's going to come sooner or later, they're just embarrassed millionaires. They're not quite millionaires yet, but they know they will be, and so they're going to oppose removing the rich from power. I hear that so often. It is such a stupid excuse. I've talked to literally thousands of people on the street, random people, about their feeling about removing the rich from power to have real, not fake democracy, no rich and no poor. And I don't know if I've heard even one person. Well, yeah, I've heard, let me see, I think it comes to 2 people now out of thousands who have said something even remotely similar to, I hope to be rich one day too. So I want to keep you know, keep some rich and some poor the way it is today, you know. You would have to talk to thousands of people to run into more than one or two people who say that. But I hear the excuses from people, you know, saying, oh, well, everybody thinks that they're going to be a millionaire one day, so they want to keep it so that there are some rich and some poor. What a stupid excuse. This is said by people who stupidly believe that everyone believes the lies that the 11 o'clock news is telling them. They're, you know, they're like the people in the fable of the emperor's new clothes who are looking at the emperor, and the emperor is stark naked, and they can see that the emperor is stark naked, but they've been told that the emperor is wearing magic clothes, and you know, and good people can see the clothes. Only the bad people cannot see the clothes, and so, you know, they keep their mouths shut. Stupid. I'm going to post a link below to what I've just started doing to try to help build a revolutionary egalitarian movement in my little neighborhood of Boston, in Allston-Brighton. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. There's a huge obstacle, which is hopelessness. All the people who say they would love an egalitarian revolution, and they are the vast majority, 90% of the people you ask, they almost all say it's impossible. They don't think that there's enough other people who want to do it, because, you know, that's the whole purpose of the 11 o'clock news and the mass media. It censors all expressions of any kind of desire to have an egalitarian revolution. And so it creates this mental image. It creates a mental image in people unconsciously of the general public being people who don't want to remove the rich from power, who would actually oppose an organization or a movement that aimed to do that. So yeah, that creates a lot of hopelessness. People know the rich have, you know, the 82nd Airborne Division, and that, you know, even civilian militias with rifles is no match for the 82nd Airborne Division. And they figure there's not enough people who would even want to rise up against the rich, and the rich have all this power. So it's, you know, people think it's quixotic. It's hopeless to even seriously consider removing the rich from power. So yes, there's a tremendous amount of hopelessness, and we have to figure out how to overcome the hopelessness. But the hopelessness is based on a wrong understanding of reality. If it was based on a correct understanding of reality, well, then there would be nothing that we could do about it, and we should all just mind our own business and tend to our own vegetable garden and forget removing the rich from power. But the hopelessness is based on a wrong understanding, and it's based on a failure to understand that people who want to remove the rich from power are the vast majority, not a small, impotent, tiny minority, which is how they tend to think that they are. Or even the people who know that it's a majority who want to remove the rich from power, what they don't know is that it's possible to get a movement that's determined enough to actually do it. You know, that there are people who would want to organize for that purpose. So the ruling class tries to make sure that there are no organizations that aim to remove the rich from power. So as I made another video about this, progressive organizations never talk about wanting to remove the rich from power. Absolutely never. And the reason, in part, is because they get their money to pay the rent and the little staff that they have from big money, from the big foundations, the Ford, Rockefeller, Soros, Heinz Foundation, those people, that's channeled through the Tides Center to virtually every progressive organization large enough to rent office space. And the leaders know that they dare not actually say, let's remove the rich from power, because they lose the rent money, and they know the rank and file have been persuaded by the censorship of that idea in the mass media to think that it would be a bad idea for the organization to advocate removing the rich from power because the rank and file think that the organization would lose support if it did that. The reality is it would gain support. Watch my video where I asked people if an organization that was fighting for something that you thought was good also said it was for removing the rich from power and having real, not fake democracy and no rich and no poor. I said, would you support that organization more or less? They all said more. But you know, the ruling class works hard to make people think that everyone would say they'd support it less. And so the result is we have no organizations that advocate removing the rich from power, and that creates more of a sense that it's impossible because, you know, gee, if there aren't even any organizations advocating it, it must truly be an impossible thing, right? So we can create organizations that do advocate it, but it's not going to be easy. We have to take baby steps to get people to demonstrate to other people that they do want to remove the rich from power, and we have to figure out ways to make it so that people can demonstrate that aspiration to large numbers of people by doing something that at this point, given their hopelessness, they're still willing to do. And I'm doing trial and error, trying to find how to do that. And the link at the bottom is about how I'm asking people to pose for a photograph holding a sign saying that they want to remove the rich from power and have real, not fake democracy, no rich and no poor. I just started doing it today. But in the few minutes I was doing it, I got several people who gladly agreed to do it. You can see their pictures online. So I'm going to be doing that more. I'm going to aim to get thousands of such pictures and then raise money to put an ad in the big newspaper telling people where they can see the pictures of all their neighbors saying they want to remove the rich from power, and also where the rich and powerful can see that what's happening as a result of the rich and powerful treating people like dirt is that a movement to remove them from power is growing, and that will frighten them like nothing else. A specific demand that I'm focusing on, as you can read about, and the link I'll provide, is that the rich and powerful treating us like dirt by refusing to build affordable housing for all. It's a major grievance here in my town and all over the country, I think. Gentrification is one way of describing it. People being driven out of their neighborhoods in many years, often many generations, because rising rents and property taxes are making it so they can't afford to live there anymore. The reason this is happening is because the rich are not afraid of what will happen if they keep doing it. So we got to build a movement to make them afraid, and that way we'll at least begin to probably address the immediate need of more affordable housing, and also build a movement to create a really good egalitarian society where people are not treated like dirt by a small ruling elite. Now, I'm not saying any of this is easy, but I am sick and tired of people making excuses for not even trying. And I hope that you will maybe try to do what I am now presently doing in my neighborhood. I've spelled out how to do it, so it's very easy for you to just copy it. I hope you'll do that, or maybe you'll come up with a better idea. You know, I'm just using trial and error now. But God damn it, don't give me another one of those stupid excuses to justify just sitting back and doing nothing and saying, oh, nothing can be done, it's hopeless, it's futile. Because when you talk that way, you're talking exactly the way the ruling class has worked so hard to make you and others talk. Cut it out. Come on. Rise to the occasion. Thank you.